Hello everyone, Cutty Tiger here with Bengali Engineering and Play. We are back in Osiris New Dawn. I've done a lot more discovery, a lot of building, a lot of roaming around, and I think I have reached the end of the game. And I hate to say that, but I think I have like 20 something hours into the game here, which isn't very many, but I've got nothing else to do. I could explore. I could continue base building. I have not pursued going to space, but from all my reading, there's nothing to do when you get there. So you basically can go to another moon. You can go to the main planet, but apparently once you get there, it's kind of like more of the same thing. So anyway, what I'm kind of doing is considering the possibility here of oh, I forgot where I was. So kind of considering the possibility of moving the main base to a different place. So the reason for that thought process, now this particular facility, as you can see there on the screen, refueling station. So I built this with the concept of, hey, if I'm going to be roaming around, it might be wise to have a refueling station. Obviously, all of the different vehicles, I'm driving around in a GAV. I'm not sure what the GAV means. Something vehicle, maybe. But anyway, this is required. The fuel is hydrazine. So my thoughts were, I have 4 tanks of hydrazine that are available for refueling. I have 2 tanks of water in the background there because there's always the need for water. And the reason I picked this particular location, it's sitting right on the edge of this giant ocean of sand, really. I cruised around for about 6,000 meters, 6 kilometers in almost every direction. You end up getting a flag that says press space to go to Proteus 2 west. So apparently we're in east when you start the game. So that was interesting. All of your map locations, your beacons, and everything, when you shift to the other one, to the west versus the east where you start out, everything disappears. So I did some discovery there. That was really bizarre. I wasn't expecting that. I mean, I know game environments and everything, the world environments, obviously very finite because of potential limitations within the game. So understood. Wasn't expecting it, but I can kind of understand from a purely programmatic, as in programming perspective, why that is. You couldn't just have an infinite universe of everything being in the same game space. I understand. So my guess is that's what that's all about. So anyway, this particular facility, as I was roaming around here, I've got my GAV, which is actually a really neat vehicle. The only downside to it, it only has 2 cargo slots. So what I did was put hydrazine in those 2 cargo slots, so I had some extra fuel. Now I have I'm doing an F key here. I wanted to repair 5 F repair. Okay, for some reason I've got there we go. So anyway, one of the customize. I could probably do the same thing here, paint this. And you can't paint the glow. So, there we go. We've painted the gav, my standard tiger colors. This is good. This is a good thing. I didn't do that before. So you've got a weapon up there on top, kind of hard to see from my current angle here. So let me back off just a little bit. So currently the twin barrel gun here is pointed down a little bit. Kind of hard to see the twin barrels there, but they're there. So this guy goes at about 87 kph is top speed for this. It does take a bit of getting used to when you're going around, but this thing does move around very well. Anyway, my thoughts were that I need a refueling station. Now, in the customization of the game, you can do a lot of tweaking, and what I did was turn off the hydrazine requirement for now. And the reason I did that was I'm still really getting used to the game mechanics and deciding, well, in truth, deciding whether I want to invest really any more time into the game. I like the building, hence all of my bazillion hours in Space Engineers, and I do like the fact that there are some neat mechanics in the game. There are some things that are absolutely and totally annoying, but you know, I think that goes with any beta game, that there are just things that have not been worked out yet. So anyway, so refueling station. So this refueling station actually is a bit more advanced than the other one I built, which was over on the west side. So the one on the west was the same. 6 tanks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6 tanks. In the middle, I actually have a portable, the blow-up dome that you can stay in if you need to. So that's there. I did put a solar panel down, a large solar panel, and the electrodome. So I did do that. That provides protection against the aliens. In this case, I turned off the aliens. And the reason I turned off the aliens is because at my home base, the giant worm comes out about every 5 minutes. No matter what vehicles you might have sitting out, if the worm hits them directly, they're gone. So literally when I enter into the game, if my vehicles are sitting there, the worm comes out within the first like 2 seconds of my being in the game, and hits the vehicles, destroys the vehicles, including everything that's in them, and they're gone. So I have to spend more resources to rebuild them, and all of the effort that I went to collect materials to put into the vehicles. Your spacecraft has 40 slots. Mine was pretty much full. So I don't know if that's a game bug. I really don't. Is this supposed to come every 5 minutes and destroy everything you own? I don't know. Maybe that's just the way the devs thought the game should go. I am of a different opinion. So in the effort to save my vehicles and all the energy and effort I've put into making the vehicles and filling the cargo bays up, I just turned the aliens off. It was really totally annoying and frustrating because the moment I would get a vehicle on the ground, the worm comes out, destroys it, and there was no way around it. So even if I had saved prior to the worm getting there, you know, the moment I re-res into the game, you know, load up my game, then boom, it's gone. So anyway, I turned them off because I wanted to do some exploring. I did do some roaming around and ultimately kind of did the same thing. So I took to the air, came up to this magic barrier where I'm transitioning from Proteus 2 east, where I am, to Proteus 2 west, and roamed around, did not find anything of significance, and I didn't roam around for very long. It was probably about 10 kilometers, you know, in and out. So last night when I quit, which is really the early morning hours of this morning, I quit. Then I decided I wanted to get back to the east side, which is where home base is. That way, I could decide if I want to move home base away from the big worm, because I may have legitimately just moved into the neighborhood, which makes me, you know, perfect candidate target for that. So the downside is that I've got the full base there, which is inconvenient, that I will have to, you know, take it all down. I have a boatload of resources there. So what I will have to do is build one of the large rovers, which I believe also has 40 slots, and effectively take, you know, those slots one at a time to make sure, or rather, one locker at a time, to move all those resources with me, which is a horrible inconvenience. I'm definitely not going to do that on the screen. I don't want to bore you to absolute tears in watching the move. But so the trick is finding a place where I can build a reasonable sized base. So one of the things that I had intended originally, so I had my central habitat area, I had the barracks area, and an airlock which is duplicated here, and inside the habitat area I've got all the amenities. So I've got the water reclaimer, the oxygen generator, the climate control, I've got the fabrication table, I have the chemistry table, so all of that is inside. I've got a full forge outside here, which you can see I'm almost pointing at, so it's right here. Next to the forge is the large solar panel, which actually is powering this. So this will not function unless you have a solar panel down on the ground. And I think solar panels are the only form of energy that you can do. So one of the other things I discovered, you notice this sitting up on top of the barracks. I was having trouble placing this. Now, one of the things I did was lay out all the tanks. The back over here, it's kind of hard to see. So there's 4 tanks in the front that are liquid tanks. So all 4 of these in the front are hydrazine tanks, which ultimately would go to fill this. Everything is full, so I've spent a lot of time gathering the resources, in this case the gases, converting them into the liquids, and then filling up all these tanks. So there's 4 hydrazine tanks, there's 4 water tanks. Behind this is actually, as you can see, nitrogen. So that nitrogen tank back there. Can't really see it, but there's an oxygen tank right next to the nitrogen tank. And then there's 4 hydrogen tanks. So my thought process was, because whether you're making hydrazine or water, for every part of oxygen that you need, or nitrogen as the case may be, you're going to need 2 hydrogens. So just like water, H2O, right? Hydrazine apparently is N2O, or sorry, H2N. NH2. I'm not sure what the actual nomenclature. It's been well 30 years since I've taken chemistry, so I've forgotten what the correct nomenclature. So my guess is it's you know, H2N. So I wanted to have a gaseous tank of nitrogen, which is there, a gaseous tank of oxygen, and then 2 each for hydrogen. So there's 4 hydrogen tanks, oxygen and nitrogen tank. All of those are full back there. So this was one of yesterday's projects that I had a good time. Last evening's projects, really. And then the liquid tanks, of course, the 2 water tanks and the 4 hydrogen tanks. And I was thinking, well, if I have a facility like this, then I really should put in some sort of a temporary barracks kind of a thing. You know, a base that you could stay here, you know, climb in out of the storm. So when I had built the tanks, put all the tanks down, I had the temporary stuff. So I had the forge outside here. I had a printer out here. I had the chemistry, not the chemistry table, I'm not sure what they call it, but the external one that you can put on the ground outside. And then I got to thinking, well, you know, instead of just putting up the inflatable dome kit, maybe I'll go ahead and build a full-blown small base here. You know, so put in the habitat, put in the airlock, put in the barracks, and as I did that, I still had all this stuff on the ground, with the intention of I can build those similar components inside the habitat. So the things like the fabrication table, which replaces the printer, in fact is more capable than the printer. The chemistry table, which is more capable than the outdoor chemistry set. So once I did that, I discovered I was going to have to move some things around. So as I got rid of the electrodome that was protecting it all before, I discovered once I got the barracks in on the ground, I could not place the electrodome. And it turned out to be not because of space or interaction with any of the other things I've put on the ground. It's because of these. So these things, even if you collect them, move them, get them out of your way, they're still there because they respawn. So those things exist. If you cannot place anything down, so let me give an example here. So I'm not really going to put this tank down. Let me go ahead and just do the illustration of the tank. So you see the red. So the red is the, there we go. So something here is in the way, even though it might not. So if it's green, great. If it's red, not so great. So what I've discovered is all these little things on the ground, this little spot, this little spot, this little spot, and especially these gizmos here, because those things are there, you cannot place things down. So it was a bit frustrating trying to place things down, not only because the ground is uneven here, but because you can't see what's preventing you from building. In fact, when it's, and here's the other strange thing, so you saw with your own eyes it turned red before. Now I'm rolling back in here and there we go, now we're red again. So yeah, now we're back to red. So again, can't begin to explain exactly what's going on here. But here's the other thing that it says. So I'm going to press the F key. You must build on solid ground. So not solid ground here. Let's build on solid ground. So there's a lot of interesting dynamics that it doesn't necessarily tell you. Um, this one at least is pretty pretty descriptive. Um, I was getting a little frustrated yesterday. Here we go. This location overlaps another object. So that's a WTFO. What the hell does that actually mean? So there's nothing here on the ground that's visible, nothing you can move, nothing you can correct. It's just, it is what it is. So that was extremely frustrating when I first picked this particular site, got my first things down, and then realized I couldn't build anything else. So I had to move things around. So anyway, just the realities of the game, I guess. So finding the perfect site to build a sub-base turns out to be a little problematic. So anyway, the long story short here was I discovered that the Electrodome you can actually place on the roof of the barracks. So I did. So it ends up not quite in the center of what I perceived as the base, but very, very close. So definitely kind of an interesting thing. If I have any other gripe about the barracks, so the barracks does not have a whole lot of flexibility. The walls that you can build are a single type of wall. You also have the access on one end, but you do not have the option of building the another access point connector on the other end. So this end here, for example. So this end connects into the habitat, but you can't connect anything on the back. I think it would be neat to be able to do that because it's about the same length from end to end as the main habitat, which means you could actually, if you wanted to have like a 9 grid or something like that, you know, or a kind of a cross type, you know, with 5, then, you know, one habitat structure on each side of that, you know, but this one is a dead end. So that's the downside to this one. If you do go across, you're going to end up putting a hallway to bridge everything around it. So that's kind of the downside to that one. They do not yet have the cross. If you go to the wiki site for this game, it does show you that there is a cross as far as things that you can build, but you can't actually build it in the game yet. So I presume that will be a later thing. So anyway, what I was wanting to do was do some roaming around, and then as I was thinking about it, it was like maybe I should start considering moving to another base location, which is to say build another base and then bring materials into that base and start over. So having learned a few things in base design and understanding what the different walls and the limitations of the walls, for those of you who amusingly watched the final moments of, I think it was episode number 5, maybe 6, where I'm totally going off on how frustrating things are in the game, which that's still true, but after all, the internet is your friend. You can find out an awful lot of information, and unfortunately it's because other people have shared my frustration and so have written things on the different websites and discussion groups and that sort of thing that basically say, yeah, this is actually how you do that. So I'm not one of those typical males where I just refuse to, you know, find the directions and read them. I like reading directions. I like knowing all the fine nuances of how to build shit in a game, how the game mechanics work, the proper ways of doing A, B, or C. I like that. That's just part of the game mechanics that I like to learn because I like to understand. I mean, after all, I am an engineer. I like to understand how shit works. So games are no different. So, having said all that, we're going to, I think, drive back to the other base. And one of the things that I want to do, I'm going to back up here and hopefully not. The vehicles are a little bit. Oh, come on. Unfortunately, the vehicle turns independently of the mouse. That was one of the interesting things. Oh, and the other thing, so you see start position here, which actually is where you res into the game when you do your load. So in this case, I need to get back out of the vehicle, which is an F key. My mapper is on button 2, so I'm going to set up my mapper, and what I'm going to do. So respawn position is the last place that you saved in game, not the save on exit, but the save in game. So computer desk, this happens to be the computer desk at the original base. So they come up automatically as a beacon. So this is the computer desk that's actually in the one behind me. So if you see the red on my map, so right mouse button, and let me scroll out here. So if you see the red there on the map, that's the refueling station right there. That bottom right hand corner, sorry, left hand corner, my other right. The base shows up there, but that's the computer desk at that base, which is why you see the arrow, the green arrow there in the center on the compass, actually pointing towards that. So left mouse button. So the geyser chlorine, there is a beacon that is not too far from my main base. So as you can see, just a little over 3 kilometers to get there, and that's where we're headed next. KTC base, Kentu Tiger Clan base 01. So again, just a hair over 3 kilometers there. And the downside to that base, it's a nice location, but I'm thinking that big, the giant worm lives there, which means, you know, every time there's the random number generator for spawn big worm, it comes out and does something. My guess is if I did not have the base set as indestructible, that my base would be destroyed every time. So I saved myself the frustration there, thankfully. Tumble Basin, I found on my way in. In truth, I was lost. I was flying around in the spaceship, was lost, and flew over this crater that was full of water. And I was thinking, whoa, I need to mark this, and I did. It's dirty water, but you can take that dirty water and do something with it, and I don't know if you plug that into the chemistry set the same way, and it cleans it, and then you can fill up your containers with it. I don't know. I don't know exactly how all that works. I haven't played with that aspect yet, but I marked it. So I put a beacon there. So Tumble Basin, dirty water, so I know where that is now. I can go back and play. Refueling station is exactly, this is the beacon for this base behind me here. So anyway, so the goal here, there's the spaceship Gav, which is I'm standing right next to it. Start position, respawn position. So I've got a lot of choices here. So the geyser, the base beacon itself is that. So I did put a beacon down. That's a beacon. The refueling station, which is behind me, and then the spaceship was actually sitting over at the other base. So the good news is, as long as the spaceship has a beacon, it means it's still there, which is a good thing. So nothing has killed and destroyed it, which is a good thing. And I did turn the aliens off because I don't know how to turn just the big worm off, and I haven't done the research to do that. Alright, so now that I know what I'm looking for here, let me cycle back through these and get back to the KTC base. They do appear to be alphabetic, so for what that's worth. Alright, board vehicle. So when you're roaming around, and it doesn't matter if you're in your spacecraft or in any of the traveling vehicles, ground-based vehicles, your hover bike, whatever, it doesn't matter. Before you get in, set your mapper to whatever beacon that you are intending to use as a guide point. In this case, it was the base. Say that. So this is the interesting thing. You're driving around. Sorry, I know that was a total ADHD moment there. So this is meteors inbound, obviously. Even though they're a ways away, I'm hearing them up close. So that's what those were. So your mouse control in this case controls the turret. So you do have actually some turret control as you're doing this. Your WASD keys actually control the movement of the vehicle independently of the mouse. So your mouse is controlling, in this case, the camera, which is also tracking simultaneously with the mouse. So the reticle there you see in the screen there is really being controlled by the mouse, which, as you can see, also controls the camera, so it's keeping that centered. And then my WASD keys are these guys. So in this case, A and D control the front wheels. You can kind of see how the front wheels go right and left. And then W and S control forward, backwards, or braking. You basically use the opposite key as your brake. So, having said that, off we go. So in this case, I'm tracking almost parallel. So my camera is following the map. So right now my camera is pointed due west, but you can tell my vehicle is not quite due west. I'm slightly to the north here. So rocking the vehicle around just slightly to get it close to tracking. But in this case, I'm still wandering away from where the base is. So understanding where that base is, in this case, I'm gonna not go up there because that doesn't really look like I can. So I may have to go the long way around here, trying to figure out exactly where. Unfortunately, this giant ocean of sand I cannot build on, so there's no ideal flat places to build the base, or the new base rather. So the ideal is to find these locations on the map somewhere, which may be able to help me out here. So we're going to turn a little bit more here. See this trail, I don't know exactly what it is. The other thing I've noticed about the machines is they do fairly well, but you can roll them. Red Sea's Edge. So lots of geysers that you can work with. Oh. The downside to going cross country here. I've discovered that the vehicles are a little bit hard to control because if you let off on the proverbial accelerator, they slow down and stop. So you can't just go, part of the way. So it's kind of this proverbial all or nothing, which I don't really care for. I'm not. Anyway, would much rather have a bit more controllability in how things work, especially with some of these inanimate objects like the rocks and that sort of thing. Dumbo Basin. Oh. So that was basically the brakes there. So that was that big puddle of water I was telling you about. So this is dirty water. I really don't know how to work with it yet. That wasn't really my intention to end up right there, but clearly I did. So the trick is, I think I can just travel down this semi-ravine here, right here. Somewhat end up close to my base. Yep. So here's the worm skeleton, worm spine pass. And then I'll do a right turn up here and end up in the area next to, I think, end up in the area next to where I want to be for, oh, bang. That's why I can't have nice things. Okay, I think I'm actually on the other side of the pass from where I wanted to be here, but I'll try and get up here. Try if I can get the right keys here. So we're not quite headed towards the base, but I think we are very close. I'm not sure what that is. But we must investigate. So theoretically the base is right over there, which shouldn't be too terribly hard to get to. But I want to find out what this is. Pod rear section panel. So you can get fairly valuable resources here. So there was steel and wire. You do end up many times getting a lot of just space debris, which doesn't really do you much good. This is one of the things I desperately hope they fix in the game, is this lack of ability to really walk. There was a space debris and a barrel, and another barrel that I can pick up here. So the barrels are convenient because, oh, that is actually Okay, that was something. It highlighted for a moment there and then didn't. The inability to walk is a very, very frustrating aspect of the game. So rubber, I think that was a steel plate that was there. See that tank highlighted for just a second. And space debris and something else. So valuable resources here. So bringing up my my inventory. So the space debris, we have now 4 barrels and rubber. So maybe it was just rubber. Oh, actually, it was probably steel plates as well, because I'm under 50 on my steel plates. So definitely some good stuff. You can get wire. I've seen batteries. I've seen cryptex. Usually the cryptexes you're going to find with satellites, which could be randomly spawned anywhere. What's some of the things you can use the debris for? Well, you can directly make a furnace out of debris. You don't need anything else. So you collect 3 furnace, 3 space debris, and you have furnace. I don't. It still says this is complex material. I still have not figured out how to change this complex material into something else. I'm guessing with the sheer amount. I mean, look here, just in our view, there's like 50 pieces that are laying on the ground, and many of these are either 2 or 3 pieces. So there's a boatload of them. So I can't imagine they would have something in the game that is just so utterly useless as space debris that you can't do anything with. I just haven't figured out how to do anything with it. So eventually, hopefully I will do that. So anyway, got the few little pieces there. There's the palms. These red trees are something, you get branches from these that I don't know what they end up with. The red things actually give you berries, whether it's a red berry or a different color berry. And then the other tree that you see over there on the far side is another berry. So a lot of interesting stuff. This is a fern, sienna fern or something like that. Cinna fern. So I don't really know what that is, or even what properties that it might give to you. All right, so I still have my my base set up. So go back, view, change view. It makes driving a lot easier. And get my fingers on the right keys here, and kind of head over the way here. So I should be somewhat headed towards my base. Yes, indeed. Here is my base. So one of the things I did, go ahead and get semi-parked here. Just so I can kind of park inside the dome here. Alright, there we are. So what I did here with the base, I can't remember how much I had left, but so we have our 3, I think it's 3 there, hydrazine tanks. So the green there is showing, I guess, where you can park and refuel. So if I understand correctly, you can refuel directly from the tanks, which is kind of cool. So as long as I think you're in that green area, if you get out, you have the option of refueling. And oh, habitat. Habitat has an issue. So the other frustrating aspects of the game. So here we are at the habitat. I have to look at each individual piece, find each individual piece that might be damaged or didn't get built as I intended to build it, and then repair it. Let me get this back out of the way, and then F to get out of my vehicle. So in this case, I'm pointing my reticle, and I just have to find that particular wall that was a problem, and I don't know where it is. Corner wall. So the barracks look like there. Well, there was a barracks wall here that was a little bit off. There it is, back wall. It's the barrack structure itself. So I pull out my multi-tool here and F to repair. There we go, barracks is back. So I really just have to find, not that one, not that one, that one. And it may not be that it was damaged. It may be that when I built, I clicked, it goes to that little round thing that's supposed to go from 0 to 100%, and then boom, built. If you accidentally let up, then whatever state it was in, it builds it, and then it stays at that state. Even though there's not build states per se, you see the finished product, but as you can see here, it was a little bit less than what it was supposed to be. So then I have to stand here for 5 minutes and hold my repair key and keep doing everything. So there may be those kinds of things throughout. I have not yet found a way where I can look at something and just know heavy wall is complete. You know, like a status board. So it's kind of one of those, again, a little bit frustrating aspects of the game where I don't have any ability short of going through. And I've got damage, or rather wear and tear, turned off. So, as would be expected, I'm on a hostile environment planet, which is really just to say there's dust storms, there's rainstorms.
Rare dehydration detected.
Uh-oh, that's not a good thing. Luckily I have a bunch of water. So the other thing I have not yet done is experimented with biodomes, so that's something else that I want to do. So in this case I built a 3-high over here off to the side. The bottom has the normal amenities, so there's, I think, another oxygen generator down here, maybe a couple of other things. So I do the heavy walls. I like them better. It does require you to find tungsten, which is very, very hard to find. So wherever I could build those heavy walls, I could. These 2 upper floors are mostly useless. You cannot put anything in. If you put a window in, you can't put anything else there. So that was one of the frustrations that I had to discover. And it partially my fault, I admit. As you are building, there's a caption at the bottom of whatever wall that you're trying to build, and it will tell you whether you can do something there or not. And there was actually a caption on the window walls that says you can't build diddly squat here after you build this thing. So to me, a wall is a wall. It's like my wall in my house. There's nothing forbidding me to put a friggin' refrigerator in front of my window. So I don't know why you can't in this either. It just seems kind of stupid to me. I should be able to put anything I want there. If it's not affected by the fact that it's a window, you know, if I put a locker in front of a window, it doesn't change the fact that, hey, that was a window. But anyway, this is just part of the dynamics of the game that, okay, now that I know what they are, So this was making 3 levels just for the sake of making 3 levels. You can't really go much beyond the 3rd level. You might actually be able to squeak a 4th one in there just barely, but you would have to put the Electrodome probably up on top of the barracks to make that work. So anyway. So the dome, I haven't done anything with the biodome here. I built the advanced, what are these called? The smart bin. So I put smart bins. You can put 6 smart bins in each dome, each biodome, and each smart bin has 3 bins. So you have, are some of the things. So sand, you can get sand just about anywhere. But what you can't get from anywhere but one place. So you have to build this thing. Excrement collector. So your excrement collector, it does exactly what you think it does. You take that, you mix it with the soil, you mix human waste is the product. Let's demonstrate. So take contents, F, and then every 30 minutes you can do that again. So if you have to go to the bathroom every 30 minutes, then I'm sorry for you. I'm not there yet. Oops. Still nagging at me. But so here we go. We have human waste. And there's a variable number, random number, but you take human waste and you combine that on the chemistry table with sand. So here it is, fertilizer to be mixed with sand to create soil for growing crops. So to demonstrate that, let's pull up my number 6, which is my shovel. There's 1, 2, 3. It takes 2 sand for every human waste. 6. I should have 6 sand. Yep. So 6 and 3. So twice the number there. And then we go to the chemistry table. Which actually I do have a chemistry thing over here. Open chemistry station. And we see soil here. So watch my inventory. There's 1, 2, and 3. And all those will disappear because it's 2 and 2. 1. There's 2 and 3. And then when I take that, you'll see it's actually turned that into soil, which then is a natural crafting agent for growing crops in the biodome. So headed into the biodome here, we'll go through this entrance just because. Actually, let's go through this one because I think it's closer. We'll see actually what we can do here. This one, which is where my fabricator is, another chemistry table, and because I haven't messed with any of these yet, I really have no idea. So interact with geoplanters. So bin 1. Let's do bin 1. Oh, it just put something in there. bin 2, a G, and bin 3 is a B. Alright, well, so, interact. I'm not really sure, bin 1, what it says, no available seeds found in inventory. So my guess is I would have to get things like carrots, potatoes, the berries or something like that that would actually let me do that. But the good news is when I interact it, it automatically takes the soil out of my inventory and dumps it into the bins. So you notice that the soil is all gone. So I had 3 things of soil, they're gone. So it is pretty straightforward, it looks like. So obviously I would need some of this other stuff to work with. Again, I don't remember exactly where I kind of stopped recording last time. I don't know if I can fit through here or not. Yes, I can. So you can see the laboratory on the far side. If you remember, the laboratory had like a garage, a bay next to it. And then I surrounded the whole thing with the electric fence. I didn't really like that. So I ended up deleting all of that and getting rid of it and then just putting the big turrets in. The big turrets actually are fairly effective. I was thinking bang for the buck, the cost-wise, they really weren't worth it, but they do really well. There's actually 4 of them out there. You can see one, which is right over here. It's kind of hard to see, but the reticle is almost on it there. So there's one over there. There's actually one on the far side. Can't see it because the other portion of the habitat is in the way. So we'll go through here and back outside. So I've got the water reclaimer here. There's an oxygen. I think there's an oxygen thing over here. Yep, there's the oxygenator. And out the door we go. So here's the other turret, which is over here on this side. So I've got, I think, 4 turrets total. So there's the 2 turrets there. Here's still the oxygen geyser. And then I put 2 turrets on this side, one in the back corner, one in the front corner. Put all my supplies and materials in here. So effectively with what is in this container, so this depository here, so there's all these different materials, elements, everything, this collection of stuff, and what that would enable me to do is if I pull all that stuff into my own personal inventory, step over here to the laboratory, the creation center, then I can build anything. That was the whole point of that particular thing there. And then my spacecraft, so I can do inventory, which is G, and you can see I have a similar, not quite the same, but a very, very similar inventory. So my idea here was I would be able to fly this to somewhere, land, have most everything I would need to build basic stuff, which is really to say more vessels and the laboratory. I think the gold ended up being for the laboratory. So I had enough materials to be able to work with that. So that was the idea there. Now, intelligence being what it is, you notice there's no food there. Okay, that's kind of stupid. Head out in space without food, right? and other things. So there's issues that I have not taken into account. Anyway. All right, so I have been babbling on here. Oh, my head. Been babbling on for about an hour, talking about what we got here. So the ultimate goal here is to move the base, which is really all of this, and the base itself, not really so much of a problem to move as all of the junk that has been accumulated in the base. So I've got probably a dozen lockers with stuff in it. So I'm really going to have to recreate the base with enough locker space, and then I've got to figure out how to get from point A to point B easily to carry all of that back and forth. So there are some challenges ahead. With all that having been said, survived another sol, yay! With all that having been said, this is Kenty Tiger, and I'm signing off, and we'll see you next time.